Shall we start? Harsha?
Yes, uncle. Yes, yes.
ஆரம்பிக்கலாமா?
Yes, uncle.
Okay. सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। समस्त जन कल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्म whoever is doing whatever, maybe a saint or a murderer, an Englishman or an Indian, all have a common goal through what they are doing to find security and happiness. Everything else is a means, your education, your money, your marriage, your family, all are means to this common goal, security and happiness. But it doesn't seem to be as simple as that. Because what we are doing, let us analyze the day's program. You get up, have a wash, have a coffee, read newspaper, have breakfast, take a bath, dress up, get into the car, go to office. For what? To work. Work for what? Earn money. Money for what? What all I did in the house. I woke up from a luxury bed in a luxury bedroom, had a bath in a luxury bathroom, had an excellent breakfast, a comfortable drawing room with a TV, chauffeur-driven car, all. I was happy all through. All these things need money. I spend money. In the office, I get the money to spend at the house. I go to office to earn the money to spend at the house. Is it not perplexing? Where you get the money which buys things for your happiness and comfort, you are not happy. You are not happy in the office. But where you spend money, you are happy. That itself needs thinking. That itself needs thinking. Because what you work for is that which gives you all that you need for your comfort and joy. But you are not happy in the office. You are happy in the home or in the club or with friends. All these you spend money. Apart from this, whatever we are now doing is too superficial a life, routine life, even in the so-called enjoyment. Getting up, breakfast, TV, get into the car, go to the office, come back, watch TV, and then go for dinner in a hotel. Weekends, go to a mall. Once in a year, go overseas trip. All routine. The joy that you get is too shallow. It's too shallow. How do you say it is shallow? I now give you an example to know what is the depth of happiness. There was a blind man sleeping on the beach. Suddenly tsunami came. He was washed out or sucked into the ocean, hit boulders, and fractured the legs. Blind, fractured the legs, and this man, when he is brought to the shore by some people, he first inquires about the welfare of all others. Born blind, both legs fractured, his life was in danger. He is feeling concern and love for others. What is that happiness compared to your happiness of going to a mall and purchasing a suit for you, or going to a restaurant and eating a fine meal? Too shallow. Too shallow. You remember all the things that you did in your life. If at all rarely you did something to save somebody's life, nothing can match that happiness compared to all other things that you have done in your life. So therefore, this buying things and having comfort and joy is a shallow life. Not merely that. Even there is their uniformity. What gives joy to you doesn't give joy to somebody. Even to you, different times it changes differently. And there is beautiful food on your side table when you are sleeping. Does that food give you joy? When you are in coma, does something give you joy or sorrow? When you are in deep sleep, does something give you joy or sorrow? What gives you joy or sorrow are not merely the things, it's your mind. This mind is different to different people. People who have left kingdoms in search of the happiness. There are some people who have left happiness in search of kingdoms. Stephen Hawking, completely crippled man, he can't even wipe his saliva, he needs somebody to help him, was very close to being a Nobel laureate. Stephen Hawking. There is a person near Trichy in India who has to be lifted by somebody because of some sudden disease. Otherwise, he was a chartered accountant. He is like a ball now. He cannot move, but he's running an orphanage for 400 people. With these inconveniences, they are making their life meaningful. Marilyn Monroe, in those days, the topmost actresses, high income, so much money, so much name, so much glamour, committed suicide because she didn't find fulfillment in those things. She didn't find fulfillment in those things. And even now, our great, well-meaning, successful tycoons, business tycoons like Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, Ajim Premji, Wipro India, Tatas, most of the money they earn goes for charity. Why? Because that gives them happiness than the money that they earn. Therefore, our trying to merely earn and enrich ourselves with gadgets, a stereotype living, doesn't give fulfillment and happiness. As I said, Buddha left the kingdom. Pattinathar left 9 crores 415 years back, threw in the road literally. And all these kings go to saints, fall at their feet for happiness. Now, you must ask me, am I saying money is a deterrent for happiness? No, I have a slightly different philosophy. Do not try to depend entirely on money. Neither do you reject it in search of happiness. Live an intelligent, positive life of high productivity and completeness and happiness. This is the need of the hour. Otherwise, most of the youngsters think if you want material life, it has nothing to do with religion or spirituality. The spiritual people think material life is against happiness. It's not true. It's not at all true. Both can coexist. This is what we have to achieve. You have to set an example, youngsters, by going to the top of the world and yet be happy. How is this possible? Produce, have comforts, enjoy, but don't depend. On what? I need something. If I don't depend on that, where do I get the happiness? Which is the maximum happiness that you enjoy in your life? Supposing somebody says, I spend money for you for 60 days in the best of hotel in the world, 24 hours dance and music and singing and eating and drinking. You should not sleep. You cannot be on 3 days because the happiness that you get in sleep, nothing of these match. Why? Because the happiness is in you, clouded by, covered by your mind in waking. In sleep, this mind becomes dormant. Your real being, the real nature, that pure, eternal, conscious, blissful existence. That's the real you. In sleep is the source of total happiness. So joys you can have for some time, but ultimately you gain your security and happiness from sleep. Why? No mind. So I should sleep all the time. No, sir, that won't solve the problem. In sleep, you don't grow. You have to bring the condition of sleep into your waking. What do I do? Let your mind not disturb you and give you sorrow. How is that possible? Two ways. One, develop positive qualities. Nobody has said in the world, I love and I am sad. Nobody has said, I am jealous, I am happy. Nobody said, I am selfish, I am secure. I am greedy, I am happy. I serve, I am unhappy. Not possible. Positive qualities, you are happy. Negative qualities, you are not happy. Positive qualities come when you try to harmonize. Firstly, with your body, with your mind, with your intellect. Then with your family. Then with the society. Then with nature. When you try to harmonize, you get positive qualities, love, compassion, service. When you think about yourself, your glory, your comfort, you develop negative qualities. Where the end results, money is important or wealth is important, you get only anxiety, fear, and sorrow. Where it is sharing and caring, you get total happiness. When you do that, this mind becomes an instrument to give you happiness. The mind that sees one to be the most important, himself, is identifying with that form, with that body, with that particular individuality. Naturally, any individuality, any body changing cannot give you security. Two more examples I didn't give you. There was a richest lady in one of the European countries. When her father died in COVID, she said, we had the money to buy the entire country, but we could not buy the air needed for our father to live. One more example, where even before the COVID spread, and he didn't even get COVID, frightened, the France health minister committed suicide. Therefore, happiness doesn't depend upon external things. Happiness is a state of your mind which tries to tune to the happiness that is there in itself, irrespective of, independent of the external world and the mind itself. The mind is a tool to you to use, to contact, to transact. Should not be played by the mind. You should play with the mind. These positive qualities can come only when you identify with all. But here A lot of people do without knowledge also, but that cannot stand in crisis. If this oneness, if this identification with all have to stand in all crises, you have to understand the entire pluralistic, dualistic, apparently divided multiple world is only your extension. How? When you sleep, when the mind is not there, intellect is not there, you existed. The consciousness was there, life was there. You were happy. This is the same in all existence, consciousness, happiness. Since existence cannot be divided, isolated, its nature being life and happiness, you alone are there in all names and forms. The entire world is your own extension. When you know this, you rarely try to, or you never will try to hurt another or be hurt by another. You accept all from wherever they are, whatever they are. Their shortcomings you accept because it's your own self. My leg is twisted, crooked. My eye is partially blind. I love all. My finger pokes my eye. I do not give lecture to the finger or cut it off. When I discover myself to be all, there is happiness and security. Not knowing this, when the name and form, I so and so is important, there is confusion and chaos. This was the condition of Arjuna, temporarily forgotten all that he learned in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, where his own values have been clouded. The values that he had learned in his life, the teachings that he had, have been clouded by ego. Me and mine. Krishna said, see the Kauravas. But he started seeing teachers, fathers, in-laws, etc. So when you try to see things from the ego or individual standpoint, there is insecurity and therefore negative thoughts and therefore sorrow. When you try to see things from a holistic angle, everything an expression of that consciousness, which you may call it God. There is love. And in that love, you are happy. This is all the message of Gita. If this is the message of Gita, why Krishna should advise Arjuna to fight? It is because you have a lot of built up, collected likes and dislikes. These likes and dislikes have to be brought out in your day-to-day living, which is the battle of life. By merely suppressing them, you cannot master them. You have to use your intellect to educate your mind. What is right, what is not right. The values. But the values themselves, even sometimes, good values conflict, like in the case of Arjuna. Not to kill elders is a good value. As a king, he should fight is a good value, but there were conflicts. How do you decide? All the time, try to tune this value to the totality, which is God. That which gives maximum happiness to maximum people for maximum time, the motto of Chinmaya mission, that value you should choose in preference to your individualistic value of not to kill or to kill. This is the message of Gita. Discover yourself in all, love all, correct your mind, act to bring out the dirt in you, focus to that self, detect what is ego, what is the self, tune to the self, detach from the ego, develop positive values. This is all Gita says. They have used words like karma yoga, dhyana, bhakti, jnana, and all that because in those days people were familiar. Today we have become parrots using the same words and trying to talk about Gita in this language. Not necessary. Live your life dynamically, trying to harmonize with all, love all, serve all. Whatever negative thoughts, detect, throw them out, substitute with positive values, focus to the one and all. That is meditation. This is all Gita, sir. Your life, beautiful life. So my youngsters, try to learn the Gita in the right way. Go to the top of the world, experience security and happiness. Now let us see the problem of Arjuna. So when the chariot was parked between the two armies by Krishna, Arjuna saw Bhishma, Drona, Karna and became nervous. Before that, Duryodhana starts blabbering. And he, even before the war began, demoralized important people like Drona, etc. and became his own nemesis. He was talking all nonsense. He told Dronacharya, he stung him. Your brilliant student is the commander in the Pandava side. That brilliant student is a sting. Similarly, he said, best of Brahmins. That's again not the right word at the battlefield. So in the first chapter, you can get clues how to detect whether your mind is right or wrong through the words that you express, through the language that you express. That's the first chapter, which gives the entire psychology of human living. First thing in Duryodhana, the words at the top. In the case of Arjuna, Krishna says, see the Kauravas, but Arjuna sees his own relations. Now let us go to verse 10, where we left last time of Duryodhana. He's talking to Dronacharya. Aparyaptam tadasmakam balam bhima virakshitam paryaptam tu idam yetesham balam bhima virakshitam. This word in Sanskrit is beautiful. Aparyaptam means large, unlimited, also insufficient. Paryaptam, limited but sufficient. So Duryodhana tells Dronacharya. Our army is large, but may not be sufficient to fight them. Their army is limited, but may be sufficient. Or at least that is the implication of that word. Whether Duryodhana meant or not, that is the implication. Why is it so? The billions that I got in my dream cannot buy me a coffee. Yeah, the 100 rupee note in my pocket can get me breakfast in a middle class hotel. So limited can serve, unlimited need not serve. That which is based on untruth is, even if it is unlimited, is not sufficient. That which is based on truth, even if it is limited, is enough. This is what Krishna told in the beginning itself. My entire army will be on one side. I will be on the other side without taking a weapon. Duryodhana thought, what will I do with this man? One man and not taking a weapon also. Arjuna said, you are enough for me. That is where Duryodhana lost everything. Without truth, all your prosperity will go to dogs. Arjuna won. This is what we have to learn in life. All the time to tune ourselves to goodness, love, totality, truth. Ayaneshu sarveshu yatha bhagam avastitaha bhishmameva virakshantu bhavantah sarva evahi. All of you from your respective positions, protect Bhishma. Tasya sanjanayan harsham Guruvruddha pitamaha simmanadam vinadyochai shankam datmau pratapavan. Because this man was blabbering and demoralizing everybody, Bhishma wanted to cheer him up, so blew the conch. But by that single act, he becomes the aggressor. And in the Dharma Shastra, the aggressor will not win. So this is all the play of Krishna. That is where Arjuna chose Krishna and he became victorious. Choose God, choose truth, you will be victorious. God will guide, truth will guide. Other things will mislead and you will meet your disaster. Tata shankascha vedyascha vanavanaka gomukhaha sahasaivabhyahanyanta tashabdatumulo abhavate. Thereafter, a lot of other conches and all that, everybody was blowing. Tata shvetair hayai yuktaihi mahati syandane stitau madhava pandavas chaiva divyav shankau pradatmatuhu. See, this whole thing is narrated by Sanjaya to Dhritarashtra. Sanjaya is in the payrolls of Dhritarashtra, but he's being a good man. Sanjaya conquered his ego and senses. His love is for the Pandavas. So when he describes, he uses all adjectives to the Pandava side and doesn't care to use any adjective to the Kauravas. He says, Mahatisyandane, in that great chariot, Shvetaihi, Hayehi, Yuktaihi, with white horses, Madhavaha, the Lord of the universe, here, Lakshmi, Krishna, Pandavas Chaiva, Pandava, Divyo, divine, Shankau Pradatmatahu, they blew. He says, Madhava, only to suggest to Dhritarashtra, at least now, call off the war, no chance to win. Then on their side is Madhava, the Lord of the universe, the Lord of the earth. Where will you win? But that man is born blind. And therefore he doesn't listen. The same problem to Arjuna, but he was willing to listen to Krishna. Whereas Dhritarashtra was not willing to listen to Sanjaya. Both are intellect chariots. In one case, the ego doesn't listen. In the other case, the ego listens. Panchajanyam Hrushikeshaha Devadattam Dhananjaya Paundrau Datmau Mahashankaha Bhima Karmo Mrukodaraha. Rishikesha, Krishna, Panchajanyam, his conch is called Panchajanya. Dhananjaya, the one who has conquered wealth for the Pandavas through Rajasuya. Devadattam, he proved Devadatta. Poundram Dadmau Mahashankam, great conch called Poundram. Bhima Karma Urupodaraha, that pot-bellied Bhima, who doesn't believe in doing small things, blue. Why doesn't he believe in doing small things? You know, in the whole Mahabharata war and in Ramayana, two Vayuputras never got into a problem. Bhima never got into a problem in Mahabharata war. Hanumanji never got into a problem in Ramayana. Number one. Number two, his son was Ghatotkacha. Ghatotkacha was causing such havoc. Duryodhana asked Karna to use the Shakti weapon given to him by Indra. Karna says, if I use that, I can't kill Arjuna because that's meant for Arjuna. He said, that is tomorrow's problem. Today, this Ghatotkacha seems to kill all of us. So use it. And it was used. Krishna started laughing. Bhima asked, my son is dying, you are laughing? Yes. If he didn't die through Shakti, Arjuna would have died and the battle is lost. Your son has made a sacrifice by trying to get the Shakti Astra for himself. And through that, the war will be won. That is one. Second, Ghatotkacha was falling. Bhishma said, go to that corner and fall. Because when you fall, lakhs of Kauravas will die under you. That is why he is called Bhima Karma. Ananta Vijayam Raja Kunti Putro Yudhishthira Nakula Sahadevacha Subhoshamani Pushpakau. Ananta Vijayam, infinite, endless victory, is the conch of Yudhishthira, Dharmaraja, who stays firmly in the battlefield. Why does he use all these adjectives? At least to give some sense to that Dhritarashtra to call off the war. Nakula Sahadevascha Subhoshamani Pushpakau Drupado Draupadeyascha Sarvashah Mahipate Saubhadrascha Mahabahu Shankam Dadmo Pratak. All these various people also blew their conches. Saghosho Dhritarashtra Hudayani Vyadarayate Namaste Prudivim Chaiva Tumulo Vyanunadayan. That sound terrified the Kaurava. The sound should terrify all. Everybody blew the conches. Why the Kauravas alone it should terrify? Because morally weak. That's what Sanjaya says. Atha Vyavasthitan Dushva Dhritarashtra Kapitvaja Pravrutte Shatra Sampate Darudyamya Pandava Rushikesham Tada Vakyam Idamaha Mahipate. At that time, ready to fight, bow in hand, Arjuna tells Krishna, Arjuna Vacha Senayor Rubhayor Madhye Rajam Stapaya Me Achyuta Achyuta, the one who never serves on the path, most dependable Krishna, take my chariot and park between the two armies so that I can assess. Yavadetan Niricheham Yodhukama Navastitan Kaimaya Sahayodavyam Asmin Rana Samudyame SWAT, strength, weakness, opportunities, and T is for what? Anyway, forget it. So he wanted to assess both the armies. Threats. Yosyamana Navecheham Yayete Samagataha Dhritarashtrasya Durbuddhe Yuddhe Priyata Keshavaha. He says, I want to see these dirty people who has come to fight with me. Sanjaya Vacha Yeva Mukto Hrishikesha Udakeshena Bharata Senayor Rubayor Madhye Sapayitva Rathottamam Bhishma Drona Pramkataha Sarvesham Chamahipatim Vacha Partha Pashyaitan Sarve Nyetan Kuruniti. That is the most important word. Kuru. He parked the car between the two armies as said by his boss Arjuna Krishna. But if it's unintelligent driver, he would have parked in the wrong place. Arjuna would have got overconfident. But he parked the chariot exactly before Drona and Bhishma so that Arjuna will get the correct assessment. And not only that, he said, see your enemy army, Kauravas. This is the crux. Krishna said, see the enemies. But what does Arjuna see there? Tatra pashyat stitan partha pitrunada pitamahan acharyan matulan bhratru putran pautran sakistata. There Arjuna saw pitrun, fathers, pitamahan, grandfathers, acharyan, teachers, matulan, maternal uncles, bhratru, brothers, putran, sons, pautran, grandsons, sakin, friends, shashuran, in-laws, surudasteva, friends, senayor, ubayorapi, on both sides, tam samikshasa kaunteya, sarvan bandhu avastitan, seeing all these bandhus, relatives on both sides, krupaya paraya vistaha, vishidan idam bravi. Dejected, Arjuna started saying this. Drushvevam sajanam Krishna yustam samupastitam sidam timamagatrani mukham cha parisushyati vepato samesh romaharsh sarire me romaharsham cha jayate. The best of doctor cannot operate on his own son, because where I and my comes, the mind becomes weak. Therefore, when Krishna said, see the Kauravas, when he started seeing his Swajanas, people, then he became so nervous. Chidanti mamagatrani, my limbs are failing. Mukham cha parishushati, my mouth is dried up. Vepatascha sharire me, my body is shivering. Roma harshasya jayate, hair stands on horripilation. Gandivam samsate hasta, my bow is slipping from my hand. Tvakchaiva paridakyate, skin is burning. Nacha seknomi avaspagatum brahmati vacha me manaha. I am not able to stand. My head is reeling. Who? Arjuna, whom Shiva could not defeat. Arjuna single-handedly fought the war for Indra and shared his throne. Arjuna single-handedly defeated all the Kauravas in Virata Parva. Now he says, I am not able to stand. I become so weak. My mind has become so weak. My bow is slipping. Why? Ego. Nimittana cha pashyami vipiritani kesava nacha sreyo anupashyami hatva sujanama. I see all bad omens. Imagine you go to the exam, you are a gold medalist always, and your left hand wings. You say, bad omen, I'm not writing the exam. Or you are an actor, go to the stage. You are supposed to play your role. Something happened, bad omen. Which is the time to see bad omens? You are already in the battlefield. That shows to what extent Arjuna degraded himself because of the ego. This is what you have to remember in the entire Gita first chapter. When everything is oriented towards the ego, there is death and disaster. When everything is oriented towards God, life, love, there is immortality and happiness. We will see next class. And I won't say Purnamadaha, that when they close Harsha and etc., I will say, I won't close. I am leaving and letting you live in peace.
Krishna. Thank you, uncle. Thank you so much for the class.
Okay. Hari Om.
Hari Om, uncle. Thank you.
Hari